talk to a very special voice who's joining us now all the way from Singapore, Pine Labs. This is a merchant commerce solution digital payment company. The reason we've got Amrish Rau, the CEO of the company today, is to talk more about how Indians are spending digitally. Remember, between the lockdown and of course during the lockdown before that, what kind of spending patterns are actually happening. Mr. Rao, thank you so much for your time. Talk to us about some of the insights that you may have gathered regarding Indians' spending behavior. Pine Labs, of course, is quite deep into that merchant commerce, digital payment, and of course, installment financing.
First of all, what I would like to mention out here is India is a country of small traders. And we believe that we actually help the Indian economy by enabling the small traders to accept digital payment transactions. We did somewhere close to about 2.1 lakh crores of digital payment transactions last year. And we felt that we were ready for one of the blockbuster years getting into 2020 and 2021. Unfortunately, due to the COVID scenario, the month of April was a very difficult month for the trader community, and we saw transactions dip by almost 80%. Now, I'm sure you will ask the question which says, who are doing those 20% of the transactions? But we are servicing everybody, including essential traders, and we were still getting to see 20% of the transactions. But the month of May has been very unique as Indian economy has started to open up, as consumers have started to hit the field. Transactions have come roaring back in the last 2 weeks' time. In fact, we would say that the transaction volumes are now only 25% away from where it used to be in January and February. And things have also changed in the last 3-4 days. Within that, we have seen different patterns across cities and across small tiered cities in India.
Yeah, very interesting. Amrish, I'm keen to ask you about this smaller town phenomena, because not only it is so unfortunate the way a lot of migrants from metros are going back, and COVID was essentially a metro-centric event and pandemic, but tier 2, tier 3 towns are also being spoken about as growth areas now to the strategists we speak to, also because of the slew of measures which the government is taking and the money is being thrown in the rural side as well. Talk to us about activity in smaller towns of India and even the rural belt. What are your observations?
Getting consumer consumption back again is something which is of high importance to us. And what we have seen out there is that right now the small businesses have been impacted by two very big factors. One is the factor that in the offline businesses, consumers are feeling uncomfortable to go ahead and do a transaction. So that's point number one. Point number two is, with what has happened around the NBFC sector, this has greatly affected the flow of credit to small merchants. So I can tell you today that virtually all the NBFCs have decided to pull back for new consumer acquisition at a small business. What that has done is spends have getting reduced slightly. However, what has worked for us on a digital payment side is consumer has clearly started to move towards digital payments over cash. So while we have two factors which could impact transactions and can suppress transactions, we have another one wherein digital payments have been accelerated because people want to use their card to make transactions happen. Second thing what has happened out here is offline businesses have now started to realize that if they don't adopt to online strategies, they are going to struggle. So we are getting to see a lot of small businesses start to put their inventory on the net and start selling on the net. That digitization of a small merchant and getting them online is a very important endeavor of ours.
So Amrish, which are these towns? Can you share some insight which is seeing heightened activity?
Yes, so we looked at Ludhiana, Chandigarh, Dehradun, the classic what you would call as a tier 2 or tier 3 cities. And in that, what we are getting to see, for example, is consumer durables has come roaring back, where consumer durables are actually 10% higher than what it was in January and February. I also looked at the data as compared to last year, because these are the summer months. Obviously, you expect more ACs to be selling. even when you compare it to last year, the numbers are higher than last year when it comes to consumer durables. On mobile phones, it is at about 80% of where it used to be as far as January and February is concerned. On the other hand, the grocery stores, we are still seeing suppressed numbers. And I'm assuming out, not that you and I can do away from grocery, but what I am getting to see is that small ticket purchases might still be happening on cash, and there are transactions are still looking suppressed, which is in the region of about 65 to 70% of what it used to be in January and February. What is very, very interesting for me is we do about 14-15,000 crores of installment payment transactions on a yearly basis. And about a week back, we had the highest grossing installment payment transaction ever on our platform, which was a big surprise for us. But it is clearly showing that consumers are requiring to go towards credit so that they could complete the transaction.
Mhm. Great. Amrish, lastly, also, I understand you are on one of the Niti Aayog's committee to encourage more digitization-led financial transactions in the country. What are the recommendations you made, and together, along with the government, what direction is this subject taking into our country? Do you think COVID is a kind of a booster tailwind which will fade out going forward, or there's definitely some structural shifts happening in the country?
See, I have to say this at all points of time. What we have achieved in the last 5 years for digital payments is much more than what was achieved ever in the history of India when it comes to digital payments. So, demonetization gave a massive fillip to digital payments. And what we are now seeking is that coming out of COVID, digital payments can play a significant role in bringing business back for the small trader. And what we are entirely focused on is how can we come up with policies by which the small traders is benefited and digital payment transactions can be benefited out there. And that is a work which is in progress. We have put in some recommendations out there, largely around getting consumers to accept to digital payments and use digital payments at small trader location. And we made some simple suggestions out there by which this can get accelerated.